Good afternoon. I'm Ed Lewis, Deputy Director of Greater Spokane Emergency Management. First, I'd like to say that the crews on the ground are working very diligently to continue the restoration of electrical transmission lines to all of us, and we appreciate very much what they're doing out there and what you are doing to help by supporting them on the ground. I know that that's going on out there a lot. In addition, we've seen a great response through the efforts of neighbors helping neighbors, encouraging folks to check on each other. And we certainly challenge everyone out there to continue to do that for the coming days. Volunteers today are out in the city of Spokane and city of Spokane Valley, knocking on doors and checking on people to see if they are connected to the right types of resources to support them in this time of need. And that effort will continue until we reach the majority of those folks. Not going to say we're going to reach them all, but certainly the majority of folks out there on the ground. Shelters continue to be open throughout the community, and people are taking advantage of those, especially for daytime use. So as temperatures continue or stay where they are, but certainly stay cold, please encourage individuals to use those shelters to see that they are taking care of themselves from a hypothermia perspective. In addition, we want to continue to stress the need to be mindful about preventing carbon monoxide poisoning, which is oftentimes a concern during time with power outages and utilization of heating elements inside the home, those types of things. So please keep that in mind as you're checking on your neighbors. If you see something like that, let's see if we can't intervene and make sure that we don't have, or we can avert a tragedy. As we focus our energies on cleaning up the yards, I'd like to remind people to contact their insurance companies, make sure that if they have damage, they're documenting what's occurred on their property. And that documentation could certainly serve you later as we progress through this incident. We also want to talk a little bit about licensed contractors. We know that there's a great number of licensed contractors out there working hour after hour providing service. The vast majority are in fact legitimate within our community. But make sure that you're doing due diligence to see that that person is a licensed contractor if you have them working on your property. Unfortunately, there are folks out there that will take advantage of us during these situations. So due diligence would certainly be appropriate this time. And at this time, I'd like to turn over the podium to Mayor Condon for some comments from the city's perspective.
Well, good afternoon. We continue to be amazed at the outpouring of support by the community. We truly are inland strong. Volunteers are out in our neighborhoods yesterday and today talking to those significantly impacted by the storm. The reception and feedback from those neighbors was very good. I was with some of those volunteers just this morning. It was clear that our community is resilient, compassionate, and supporting each other through the storm. Their message to volunteers was overwhelmingly appreciation for the work from our first responders, from our utility crews, street crews, social service agencies, and many others. And they have been working nonstop since the storm hit us on Tuesday night. Neighbors throughout our community are standing inland strong. Volunteers are back again today, like I said this morning, in the city of Spokane, in the city of Spokane Valley. Those efforts will continue tomorrow throughout our areas that are most impacted by the outages. Volunteers are asked to meet at West Central Community Center beginning at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Volunteers will receive training on resources to assist people most in need. If you're willing and comfortable in volunteering, please visit volunteerspokane.org. Again, it's volunteerspokane.org. If you're without connectivity to the internet, you can also contact us at 211 over the next couple days to connect to volunteer opportunities or if you're in need. You can also just show up at the West Central Community Center, which is at 1603 North Belt. Again, that's 1603 North Belt. I'll close with a couple other reminders and updates. Anyone that may be clearing storm debris this weekend, that the city of Spokane's Northside landfill and waste energy plants are both accepting large debris for free through the 29th. Smaller debris can be put in your clean green bins, and we'll continue that pickup through December 18th. Your perishable food items, unfortunately, if they were lost from your refrigerator or freezers, if you remove them from the packaging, can also be put in the clean green bins. The Spokane Fire Department is working closely with our social service agencies and others to look after and to go to the homes that were most damaged by the falling trees. The Spokane Police Division is also stepped up patrols in the areas most affected by the outages, and it continued those that are in the outage areas continuing to monitor those areas. And as tempting as it may be, our streets and our parks department are asking everyone to refrain from climbing on trees. You will see over the next day or two that our parks department will be removing some of the trees that are posing danger to those that might go into our parks as we move, now that we've moved the majority of the trees out of our arterials. We've inspected hundreds throughout the community, and even the ones that appear to be lying on the ground can still be very unstable in our parks. I will also remind all those that live in the city that our community centers are open and are willing to take folks during the daytime hours, and Northeast Community Center is also set up for the evening. Thank you again for everyone in our region, for everyone is doing their part to help their friends, their families, and our neighbors. As we continue to go throughout the weekend and into early next week, I do ask people again to check on your neighbors, to check on your friends and family, and make sure that they get the services they needed. And thank you again for standing Inland Strong.
Most notably, I think that people have asked us with regard to what's been our contact with the governor's office. This office is in constant communication with the governor's office. We have been since this event was first started. In fact, a representative from the governor's office, his Eastern Washington representative, has been part of our emergency management team throughout this week, and is part of our meeting that we assemble every day. There is certainly attention given to his declaration of a statewide state of emergency. That gives us access to resources that we might not normally have. We are identifying what those needs will be, and we will work through the emergency management services to identify and deploy those on an as-needed basis. Some, I think, have asked, you know, are we asking for the National Guard to come in at this point? At this point, we are not. I think that what that requires is really for us to identify a very specific mission and task for the Guard to come in and do. I think that right now our emphasis is in working with the utility companies and really getting electricity back to people. I'm not sure the Guard would have a primary role in that. And as Ed had already mentioned, with regard to the cleanup on private property, I certainly know the media is covering a lot of information with what the insurance companies are saying, and they want to make sure that people are careful in assessing their damage and removing that debris in a way that's consistent with what their insurance policies will cover, so they don't amplify any damage. So certainly our task is primarily in the public right-of-way. We are seeing tremendous progress in the unincorporated area. Again, right now we are working with utility companies, but we believe that except for where we have lines down, and we are coordinating that with utility companies, we believe that we've cleared all the other roadways that we're aware of at this point. And so at this point we will focus with regard to roadways on working with utility companies as they clear those down lines, and then coming back and cleaning the brush on the shoulders of the road. The transfer stations, as the mayor has stated, we will be accepting debris, clean green debris, through tomorrow, close of business for free. After that, we will continue that through our Colbert transfer station for one additional week through November 29th. And of course, we're coordinating that with the city of Spokane as well, with the waste energy plant and the Northside landfill. Hopefully that will give people enough time to clear the bulk of this and go forward. I will just say that I just passed the Valley transfer station, not only as I left the earlier meeting here, but as I came back. They are seeing tremendous volumes going through there, and I know we have lines of cars on Sullivan, both north and south of the turnoff into the transfer station, for people trying to get in there. So they're going to have a little bit of a wait to do that, and we appreciate their patience as we go forward. At this point, what I would like to do is turn this over to Mike Jackson from the City of Spokane Valley to continue from their perspective.
Thank you, Mike Jackson, City Manager for the City of Spokane Valley. I'd like to start with reiterating that there is a Red Cross shelter in Spokane Valley available to residents in need of food or warm shelter. That's at the Spokane Valley Assembly of God Church at 15618 East Broadway, just east of Sullivan. And there still is capacity. And sometimes those in needs are not able to recognize the location of the shelter, so we ask that neighbors and citizens help those who might be in need and assist them in directing them to a shelter if it's needed. The city of Spokane Valley also, as far as we know, has cleared all trees from the roadway. There may still be a few entangled in electrical lines. We'll be working with the power company on those. Of course, the largest burden for tree removal falls on our citizens, and as everyone has said, our citizens have been tremendous through all of this. In Spokane Valley, we like to refer to that as the pioneer spirit. Volunteers were out in 7 areas throughout Spokane Valley, those areas that were still without power, handing out pamphlets as coordinated through the fire department. We appreciate that greatly, and I understand even as they were canvassing some of the neighborhoods, the power was being restored. So that's very good news. Most of the traffic signals are up and running in the valley with very few exceptions. The phone number to call for any type of information from Spokane Valley is 921-1000. And that phone line is checked throughout the weekend and will be checked throughout the Thanksgiving holiday. So that number is 921-1000. And there is also an alternative transfer station available for citizens. That is the Sunshine Spokane Valley Transfer Station located at University in Montgomery. And that transfer station will accept all sizes of wood and debris. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Scott Morris, Chairman and CEO of Avista.
First, again, as I have every day, I want to start by just saying thank you again to our customers for their patience and their perseverance. And I do want to express my sincere empathy for all of our customers' situation as we make progress trying to recover from the worst natural disaster, the worst outage that we've ever had in our 126-year history as a company. I know that living without power in these cold conditions can be really stressful and can be very trying. But let me assure you that we continue to dedicate every available resource at our disposal. We're working to restore your power as quickly as we can. As I said before, it took us about 2.5 days to rebuild what I would call the engine, the main backbone of our system, our transmission, and our substation system. During that time also, we were restoring power to customers in our 30,000 square mile service territory across the inland Northwest. I'm extremely pleased with the progress that we've made to date. We've restored power to 120,000 customers. That's about 70% of the 180,000 customers who remain without power. Excuse me, that's about 70% of the 180,000 customers who were without power at the height of the storm. So we've got about 60,000 customers remaining. So, but that last 30%, now that we've been able to start swarming some of our distribution systems and we've got eyes on them really starting yesterday, we're digging into some really time-consuming and some labor-intensive work repairing the distribution lines that feed your homes, your businesses. We're seeing firsthand the extent of the devastation to our system. So the reality is that restoring power to the remaining 30% of those customers is really challenging. And let me give you a couple of examples. I mentioned yesterday the 36 poles that were down kind of in the lower South Hill. It's kind of by 8th and Maple roughly. That we're finding out one distribution pole can take a crew up to 6 hours or more. We've got 3 crews on site on those 36 poles. It's in solid rock. We think it's going to take 4 or 5 days to replace that line. That one incident is only going to repair power for about 500 customers. So 3 crews, 5 days, 500 customers. Another example is yesterday we talked about swarming our most critical feeders, the ones that were the pumping stations, fire stations, police stations, elderly, and one of the feeders is in the Glen Rose area. We started yesterday. What we found out is after the crew's been in there now for more than 24 hours, that feeder alone is going to take about 2.5 days to repair. A situation that we found is that one crew worked 4 hours to restore power to 8 customers because of the devastation of the poles and the work that's been doing. So after we get through all of those challenging areas, we will start working on some of the more populated areas, but we still have a critical need feeders that we're going to continue to work to make sure that we get all of those critical services online for each and every one of you. So we're working in populated areas. Some of our poles are located, remember, in backyards, easements. A lot of this work we're finding out is we're having to hand carry in poles, hand dig poles. Crews are having to do the work manually. We can't get lift equipment, backhoes, and those kind of equipment into those areas. And often, as our crews get on site, they often identify even more work they have to do once they get there. So given the challenging nature of this work, we expect that it might be closer to midweek before we can get everybody back on. As our communities in our region recover from the windstorm, they'll be able to send our crews our way. We have just made a request for more resources. We've asked for crews from Montana and British Columbia, and we're very hopeful that they will be coming our way sometime today. So in the meantime, we have 97 crews that are available, working on a rotating basis to restore power to our customers. So in less than 3 days, we've tripled our workforce to try to address this outage. Again, in 3 days, we've tripled our workforce trying to recover from this storm. And this is how we're going to restore power to the 60,000 customers. We're using a swarm of feeder approach. I talked about that yesterday. It's really one feeder at a time. We're sending 3 to 5 crews working on a single feeder. Each feeder has several sections. Remember, it's the main trunk lines, and then there's these laterals that go off it that deliver powers to homes and businesses. They are systematically repairing those damaged distribution feeder trunks and laterals one section at a time. We've got over 40 of those feeders damaged, so we're working as diligently as we can to complete the work on that. We're wrapping up. Yesterday I mentioned that we started a swarm on our 11 most critical feeders. We're finishing up that work today on most of those. We started work on another 21 feeders today. We're hopeful that we will continue to work, but the work of those feeders, it isn't just we start today and it ends today. Some of those feeders might take 1, 2, or 3 days to complete. Some might take 1 day to complete. It really depends on the devastation, the area where they're hardest hit. So, in addition to that, we're also taking care of our most vulnerable customers. We've restored power to 4 major nursing homes in Spokane. We've got 8 temporary generators in service at senior living facilities while we work to restore their power to the grid. We've also donated more than $50,000 to several organizations that have an immediate positive impact on our community, including the Red Cross and Salvation Army Catholic Charities, Tom's Turkey Drive, public schools for warming stations, and a number of other areas. So I guess what I am saying is we all need to work together. I appreciate your help to help us through this crisis. We're not alone in this. Governor Inslee just called me yesterday, and he just said, hey, I want to just thank the hardworking staff at Avista for working around the clock to get the power restored. They're doing a tremendous job, and given the severity of the windstorm, it was nice of the governor to check in. I want to thank our employees for everything they're doing to restore power as quickly and as safely as possible to our remaining customers. They're working around the clock, and they'll continue to do so. So I want to thank you for your patience. I'm happy to go ahead and show the feeders that we're working on. And I also, if you don't mind, I do have a couple of pictures to sort of give you an idea of what some of these most devastating issues are, and maybe afterwards you can take a look, but you've driven around and you've seen some of these challenges, and I will tell you that we haven't seen devastation like this before. So with that, I'm going to stop and let my friend from Inland Power give his update as they continue to strive and work through some of the very similar challenging situations.
My name's Glenn Best, Chief Operating Officer at Inland Power and Light. It's awfully nice of you to bring pictures of our power system with you today, Scott, so that's great. So, I'm joking. A lot of ours look like that, too. First of all, like Avista, we want to, first of all, thank our members of Inland Power and Light Cooperative for your patience. Same thing, can't reiterate enough. We understand the importance of having electricity and how special it is to our households, especially as we get close to the coming holiday next week. We're doing everything in our physical ability to get your power restored as soon as possible. So again, thank you for your patience. We continue to ask for that patience with our crews, with our staff at the office. They're doing everything they can possible to support you and to get your power back on. Want to continue to remind everybody out there to be safe and to be vigilant. Down power lines, just because they're on the ground, doesn't mean they're safe. You need to take precaution when you're around those. If they're still laying across your driveways, they may be off the roads and things, but they could still be laying across your back porches, your back lawns, places like that. So please, if you have a situation like that, call Inland Power and Light. Let us know, and we have a public safety team that is going to these locations to remove those lines to safe up those areas. We currently have approximately 8,000 of our 40,000 members are still without power. That's about 20% of our distribution system that covers 13 counties in the area. Our outages are primarily located in Bonner, Stevens, and Spokane counties. As Scott mentioned, we're also discovering as we get into some of these areas that we haven't been to yet that the devastation is beyond belief in many places. The destruction to the power system is extensive, a lot of very hard access, a lot of backyards, a lot of places that it's going to take a lot of man hours to fix. We have all of our crews working around the clock to restore power. Yesterday we added 8 contractors. Our system's much smaller than Avista's, but we look after a lot of the rural areas, so for us to bring in 8 contractors as well as an additional 4, and we're reaching out to a couple more contractors. We'll have about 20 crews on the property by this evening. We're able to get these crews. A lot of them are from our local contractors in the area, but we're also picking up contractors from Columbia REA out of Walla Walla, Benton PUD, and Benton REA out of the Tri-Cities, Big Bend Electric Co-op out of Ritzville, Milton Free Water out of the Salem, Eugene area, and Nez Pelham Electric Cooperative out of over in the Okanagan area. So thank you to those utilities for lending us their line crews as well. In addition, we've been able to acquire a couple more tree crews. I can't express the importance of some of these tree contractors that they go out in front of our line crews. They're able to clear the right-of-ways, get the tree and debris out of the way so that when our linemen come along, they can just get that wire back up. So it's a very important part of getting the power restored. Like Avista, we're doing the exact same thing. They call them the trunk lines. We call them just our feeders. We're looking after those first, and then all of the laterals are coming after that. So primary lines serving hundreds of customers are being serviced first. Secondary lines serving just a few members will come back and pick those up after the fact. Inland Power and Light is hopeful that we will have the bulk of our membership on by hopefully by late tomorrow night, Sunday evening. However, the 1 to 5 customers, like Scott mentioned, we have some locations that those people may not see power until Tuesday or Wednesday of next week in all reality, and we just want to be honest about that. There's a lot of labor out there. So a lot of those 1 to 5 member people that are out in the rural areas, we will get them on as soon as possible, but it's looking like the middle of next week. Just a reminder, I mentioned yesterday about the cold load pickup. What that is that when we try to pick up these lines, all of that load coming on at one time is very difficult to pick up, and we have to go chunk by chunk by chunk. So our members can really help us by disconnecting their main breaker, just turning it off, and then when you see the power come on around you, you can go and flick that back up. We know that not everybody will do that, so you will see people with power in your general vicinity, so it'll allow you to throw that back on. We had one of our linemen yesterday at one of our trailer parks in the West Plains. It took them 8 hours to pick up about 15 trailers just because we had to go to every breaker and every transformer and disconnect it just so we could pick that load up. So if those breakers were off, it would help us immensely. So that's an update from Inland Power. Thank you for your patience.